"17 minutes past the 8 o'clock hour on Friday, March the 17th. Kadane Hippolyte, a Norwich University student, sitting in the studio with us today here. His aspiring career in talk radio. And you're sounding a lot more awake now than you were at 6 this morning when I had you reading those sponsorship messages.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Our usual habit on Friday mornings at this time is to talk with Randy Holhut, the deputy editor of our reader-supported, award-winning independent news and views source for Windham County, The Commons. And this is no exception this Friday. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you, Randy.
Top of the morning to you, me laddie. Hi, Joyce.
Hi, Joyce. Thank you so much for tuning in on St. Patrick's Day here. And exciting week already in the Brattleboro area. You and I were together at Latches Theater yesterday for the matinee idol, Bernie Sanders, right? His visit to town.
Well, what happened there I wasn't expecting that, because I was expecting a dog and pony show for the Worley Munsing stroll project there at Windham Grows. And I think Bernie saw that there was about 900 people in the theater. And perhaps they would be mighty disappointed if he didn't go full Bernie on them.
Right.
And he went full Bernie for about 20 minutes.
Yeah, Bernie played the hits yesterday for a couple of minutes there with some talking points. And did it seem incongruous to you that he was doing that in this what was supposed to be a event introducing Windham Groves and the $300,000 in federal and state money that's coming to the Strolling of the Heifers to help carry this Windham Groves project forward? I mean, that's always, you have a lawmaker on hand, whether it's Leahy, Welch, or in this case Sanders, there to kind of herald in the federal dollars here. So did it seem sort of out of place for him to give some of those more campaign-style messages?
You saw the crowd in there. How many of them
they were eating it up.
Interested in a program to help small businesses in Windham County?
Well, they were definitely there for Bernie. He was definitely the draw.
Yeah, in other words, about maybe 50 people in that room were really intensely interested in Windham Grows. The other 850 to 900, maybe 1,000, because I guess that's the total capacity of the Latches, were there for Bernie.
Yeah.
And we were expecting, the full Bernie.
Yep. And they got it.
Especially with the budget announcement yesterday, that this was a really good day for Bernie to be talking to us.
Yeah. Yeah, they got exactly what they wanted, and it was great. I mean, he made a number of appearances around the state of Vermont, has another one, a town hall in Randolph, Vermont today, I believe. You actually followed him over to the VA afterwards. What was that like?
Well, that was a group of veterans that used the VA clinic in Brattleboro. That's one of Bernie's favorite stops in Brattleboro, because he would help get the funding for that clinic, and the people who work there are very fond of Bernie and all he's done for veterans. And the veterans there did a little bit of complaining about things that went wrong up at White River, but in the main, people were very satisfied with what's happening in White River. And one thing some of the clients noticed is that people from well outside New England are coming to White River Junction for treatment, because the word is out there in the VA system that if you really want a first-rate health care experience, come to White River Junction.
Like how far outside of the Northeast were people coming from? Did they give a state? Kentucky?
Wow. Arizona, Indiana, Georgia.
What's fascinating about that is that back when Bernie was chair of the VA committee, right? They were trying to make reforms to give better access, and one of the things that they agreed on with Senator McCain was allowing you to go to doctors outside of the area and go to non-VA sanctioned medical providers outside of the area. So that is interesting to me that people are coming from some of those areas, and it's basically based on quality. They think, gee, government is actually providing a better service than the private sector? I didn't think that was possible, Randy.
Well, here's an example. Up at White River, they have a special residential drug treatment program for veterans. So if you are having problems with drugs or alcohol and need treatment, residential treatment. This is a 5-week course. As a veteran, you can go in there and get your treatment. If you were going to the Retreat or Betty Ford or any of the other various residential programs, you'd be paying $50,000-$60,000 for that.
Well,
At the VA, it's free.
Right. Yeah. Do the math, right? It's just that simple for veterans. And so nice to have Senator Sanders here for those two events. I want to talk a little bit more about the Windham Grows aspect of the festivities yesterday at the Latches Theater, as well as other things with Randy Holhut, Deputy Editor of the Commons, and we'll get to that after the bottom of the hour news break here on Green Mountain Mornings. Stick around. 22 degrees outside at 22 minutes before the 9 o'clock hour. Beautiful sunshine streaming through the windows here in our William Street studio. Green Mountain Mornings continue now. Your host, Chris Lenois, Kadane Hippolyte in the studio with me this morning, and Randy Holhut, Deputy Editor of the Commons, on the phone. The Commons, your reader-supported independent news and views source for Windham County, free on stands every Wednesday and online at commonsnews.org. That's where you can go and make a contribution and become a member of the Commons family and see all the great news that they bring us each and every week, and I always appreciate Randy joining us to talk about it. I'm sure all this stuff that we're talking about there in the first segment, and we're going to start off talking about in this next segment, will be in next week's issue of the Commons, Randy.
Yes, having one of our interns, Shannon Holland from Marlboro College, who giving her a chance to learn her reporting chops, is going to be covering that. She was working with Olga Peters, our former colleague and your new competitor. Right.
Yep, it was great to see the whole media there yesterday at the Latches for Senator Sanders and for the Windham Grows program put out by Strolling the Heifers. I was describing Strolling the Heifers to Kadane earlier on the program. He had no idea that they marched cows up Main Street. Did you, Kadane?
Completely foreign. Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Until today.
What do you think about Brattleboro now after knowing that we put cows on pavement? And
I'm not sure, honestly. I'm not sure.
Change your perspective of us?
I'm not sure what to say, kind of.
Indeed. But he picked up on the reference. You knew, he said, it's like running of the bulls.
Yeah, like another version of running of the bulls.
So he picked up on that. How long has Stroll been around now, Randy? I couldn't even remember.
Since, I think we're up to year 11 or 12.
Year 11 or 12. Okay, yeah, it's been around a while now. And I thought that really the goal yesterday for them, obviously to have Senator Sanders come and draw such a large crowd there, was to make the point that it was more than just the cow parade. Didn't you get that sense as well?
Well, it's always been, she's always, Orly Munzing, one of the co-founders of the stroll, has always made that point, is that, the cows marching up Main Street are the hook, but the main thing is the work it's done for supporting local agriculture and the agriculture infrastructure, the value-added food businesses that have grown here in Windham County.
And to that end, this Windham Grows program, I think, is the most valuable, the most tangible thing that they've done to date. Hearing Jim Verzino talk about it yesterday on stage, he's one of the two directors of the program. Hearing the 7 members of the first cohort talk about their projects and what they're endeavoring to do and how they got support for it. To me, it really kind of hit home. And then to have $300,000 in federal and state money coming in and doing things to get to the second cohort, really felt like hopefully it sunk in for people.
Well, this was kind of a mashup of the old BDCC business plan contest and Karen Cross's road pitch thing that we've seen the last couple of summers in Brattleboro. That venture capital firms like Fresh Tracks, Karen Cross's venture capital fund, are really interested in new businesses to put money into that show promise. And certainly, value-added agriculture in Vermont is a hot commodity right now.
And here, I think specifically, I thought that was interesting. Jim talking, and we should say Karen Cross is the other program director for this. They call themselves, I guess, the co-entrepreneurs, is how they refer to them in the official terms, but they're the ones kind of guiding all the budding entrepreneurs. But when you're talking about that value-added agriculture, it seems to me that that's something that really Windham County can kind of hang its hat on.
Yeah, with all the businesses that have started up here, and some of them are over in Cotton Mill, like the two granola companies that are over there, or other places like Against the Grain, baking away over at another BDCC property, a book press, and the other businesses have started up or have grown here in Windham County, like Grafton Cheddar, and now we got a food cart culture starting.
Yeah, and now food cart culture definitely coming in. One of the groups that was contributing money to the Windham Grows Project was the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. They were represented yesterday by Katie Buckley, who, being in the affordable housing aspect of things, doesn't really administer the commercial development part of the work that they do. But it made sense that she came back, being a Guilford resident and somebody who coincidentally was profiled in last week's edition of the Commons.
Yes, Katie's made good, I guess you could say, and just a surprise that getting a call on New Year's Eve saying, "Hey, you want to work for the Scott administration on affordable housing?"
So
no,
she
really?
was
really?
she was with Windham and Windsor Housing Trust here.
Yes, and she did lots of great work as the town administrator in Guilford, and really, aside from Mike Pichek, the only Windham County person working in state government.
Yeah, in the administration.
In the administration, and and those two, and then Becca as the Senate Majority Leader. That's all we got right now.
Yeah,
for the upper echelons of in Montpelier.
Well, I know Wendy thought the world of Katie covering the select board meetings out there in Guilford. And certainly there's a lot of things that they need to deal with. But this is ultimately a good thing when we're talking about affordable housing. That is something that Governor Scott has prioritized. We'll see if it comes to fruition with some of the budget battles that are going on right now between his administration and the legislature, but it does bode well for some of the projects down here, especially the Windham and Windsor housing projects with the hotel up on Putney Road, I would think.
Yes, that's going to be now. I guess with all the budget cutting talk in Montpelier as well as Washington, it's going to be interesting to see if they can get the funds. But it sounds like they've scored the money they need to complete that. And that's going to be a huge project for dealing with homelessness in Windham County.
Yeah,
and changing the paradigm.
Yeah, and the first of many things I'm sure that Katie will be coming back to our community to talk about, and so people should check out that profile. I think that's on the front of the Town and Village section of the Commons, if I remember correctly. I print out the stories from the website, so sometimes I forget section to section. But I know Wendy's story about the Windham Solid Waste Management District is front and center in this week's edition of the Commons. And certainly this has been an incredible controversy around waste management. You would never think that there would be such a controversy around that. But when we're talking about recycling, Vermonters are pretty serious about their recycling, aren't they? Yes,
they are. And the system that's been in place has been a good one, especially if you're diligent about recycling. In our case here, we don't have a trash hauler, because we don't generate enough trash, the two of us, to really get a trash hauler. So about 4 times a year we take our trash down to Old Ferry Road, and the rest of the time we recycle. And the recycling in Dummerston is nice and convenient because it's always open, and we get rid of a lot of recyclable material that way.
Yeah.
And I suspect a lot of other people in Windham County do it like that too, and that the MRF is closing, that the rollover boxes are going to be disappearing from all the towns, and that you're going to have to take your stuff to Old Ferry Road and buy a dump sticker to have access to it. And it closes at 3 o'clock every afternoon, so it's not exactly the most convenient thing in the world.
No, and I just want to clarify, when you say MRF, Materials Recovery Facility, and we will refer to that to the MRF in the interest of time going forward here. But so the discussion at the last Windham Solid Waste Management District Board of Supervisors meeting, which was March 9th and covered by Wendy, there's a pretty even split, it seemed, between towns that want to keep that open and actually had a plan to keep that open, and then towns that didn't want to keep it open, but of course it didn't pass because Brattleboro is the 800-pound gorilla in the room with their 6 votes to nullify any of the other towns' desires.
Well, that's the misleading part. It wasn't quite an even split because of the 6 votes that Brattleboro has. And the only other towns that were really against it. Vernon and Guilford have other issues involved with trash, with hauling trash and disposing of trash.
Yeah.
But
Well,
the rest of the district that doesn't have either conflicts of interest or vendettas against the way trash is being handled, voted for the keep things as they are because it is working.
yeah. Well, 8 towns voted to keep it open on this sort of fee-for-service basis, right?
Yeah.
And then it was Brattleboro, Dover, Dummerston, Guilford, Jamaica, Vernon, and Whitingham who all voted no. Obviously, Brattleboro has had its bone to pick with Windham Solid Waste Management District, feeling that they are unfairly charged for the services here. What do you think those other towns? What do you think their problem was with this plan?
Well, with most of the towns you've listed towns that are basically conservative in outlook and feel anything that's in the public interest is usually bad and expensive and a waste of money.
So mindset, really, more than anything as far as the town.
Well, think Vernon.
Yeah. Well, I did think Vernon, but then I also saw Dummerston on there, and Guilford, and
in Dummerston and Guilford, it's more of who's going to pay for it? Because the town has thought about, hey, well, we'll put up a rollover box and we'll pay for it. But then you can have the idea of, well, every other town will come to Dummerston to dispose of their recyclables, and who pays for that?
Right. How much do you think that this change in recycling has spread out into just general households across the different communities? I mean, I think this is going to be something that people are going to be coming to the realization of for quite some time here. This seems to be the way, no matter how many times you write about it in the comments, we talk about it here on the show. It is going to be something like, wait a minute, they did what? We got rid of what?
Yes, and that's been the problem, of course, that some a town makes a decision that no, we don't want this, and they end up screwing it up for everybody else. And really, I squarely put the blame on Brattleboro and this whole we're on being unfairly charged for this, and not recognizing that there's a lot of services that are shared by not just Brattleboro but the whole county, and everyone kicks in to pay for it. And we don't say, well, Putney's putting their trash in our rollover box. They shouldn't be doing that. No, this is for the whole county. This is a good for everybody, and everyone shares in the cost of that good. That's how it works.
That's how it's supposed to work.
World.
And that's why we have the law now, the Recycling Law Act 148, where we want people to recycle, we want people to compost, and do these things to be more responsibility with their waste management. Let me ask, Kadane, how is waste management handled on the Norwich campus? Are you all in recycling and composting mode there?
We do have a place to recycle, but of course students might not take advantage of that. They might just throw their trash. But we do have dedicated bins and dedicated areas that people can recycle certain materials. It's just the fact that people must take advantage of those. And
what about the food composting aspect of things? Is that something that now, like commercial ventures, I don't know if that's come to schools yet, but different restaurants and grocery stores have to compost?
I'm not sure. We might. I'm not 100% sure. That would be something. That'll be very interesting to look into.
Yeah. I wonder how that applies to private colleges like the ones at Norwich here. But it's not something that they foster in the culture there.
No, not necessarily. I think it's just up to the students, but they do have that. You have the opportunity to recycle your whatever you want, your items, but it's just up to the students at that point. It's not really ingrained in the culture or in the school's message to for students to recycle.
You, of course, very individually are a very conscientious recycler and composter.
I am. No, honestly, I am. No, seriously, I am at home. In Massachusetts, recycling that's just moved here from Massachusetts, and people take recycling down there pretty seriously. So
more seriously than Vermont?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
No.
I was going to say, there's going to be a fight in this studio, indeed. All right. Well, Randy, we're quickly running out of time here with some of the subjects we're covering, but I did want to get to one other story that was on the front page of the Commons, Mike Fair's story about the hydroelectric dams, obviously more than just the ones in Vernon and Bellows Falls. But this is good news for those communities. It looks like we're finally at the end that these dams are going to be purchased and continue to operate in those communities.
Yeah, and that's pretty much a no-brainer for a company looking to run those things and keep them as they are, because they are still contributing to the power grid of New England, and they're still very viable and very valuable.
Yeah, Great River Hydro out of Boston buying the Vernon and Bellows Falls dams, as well as just about, I think, 11 others from TransCanada. And it seems like any day now, essentially, right, we're going to get the final approval.
Yes.
All right.
It's looking good there.
Randy, hope you have a great St. Paddy's Day weekend, and look forward to talking to you next week. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks.
All right, that was Randy Holhut, Deputy Editor of The Commons, your reader-supported, award-winning independent news and views source for Windham County. Free on stands every Wednesday, online at commonsnews.org. We will be back to wrap up this edition of Green Mountain Mornings right after these messages.